Praise the Lord. God is so good that He sends us His best. God sends us the servants of the Lord that have a word in due season. And what you're about to hear is how we have grown here at Rock City Church, because we invite people to come in that have a real word from God, men that and women that love God with all their hearts and have great integrity. And we bring them in to bless us here at this local church. And we get to share that blessing with you, the audience. Those of you that view this by video and by YouTube, you get to view what God does here at Rock City Church. It's a great time and a great experience when we can come and sit together and hear the word of the Lord and know that we're being trained and we're being equipped to do all that God has us to do for His kingdom. So I bless you, and I know you're going to enjoy the speaker today because he's got a word from the Lord just for you. God bless you. Enjoy the word.
You were meant to change the world. You were made for that one purpose. You were designed to leave it different after you leave than when you came. Come on, somebody. But let me just tell you, there were some big changes in the world 2,000 years ago when two people entered onto the world stage. Here is the first one, Matthew chapter 3, verse 1. We read about John the Baptist, and it says, while Jesus was living in the Galilean hills, John, called the baptizer, was preaching in the desert country of Judea. His message was simple and austere, just like his desert surroundings and just like Australians. And that message was, change your life. God's kingdom is here. Now, the second major change agent, the biggest of them all, was Jesus. And it says this in Mark 1, 14, 15. After John was arrested, Jesus went to Galilee preaching the message of God. Time's up. God's kingdom is here. Change your life and believe God's message. Do you know that Jesus was the greatest change agent in the history of humanity? That's why we even mark history in the modern era beginning at the date of His birth. Anno Domini, AD, means in the year of our Lord. All His miracles, however, were a major change to the natural order of things, showing that He had the right to alter what He had created. If He made it, it's His business to change it if He wants to. Someone dies, well, He created that, but He can bring them back to life. Come on, somebody. As a matter of fact, Jesus ruined every funeral He ever went to, including His own. How about that? Now, change does not always come easy to most of us because we like to base our security upon stability. What do I mean by that, I hear you say? Very simple. Imagine if we came back next week and the building was no longer here. Most of us would experience various degrees of insecurity because it rocked our world. But that's not a problem to the kingdom, because if the building was not here, where would we have church? In the parking lot. See, the kingdom of God is not about buildings. It's about God and people. That's the real kingdom. Whether we like it or not, we are living today in some of the most volatile times of all history. We are seeing within a few days, in some cases, more change than what our grandparents saw in their entire lifetimes. That's why you need to have your feet firmly planted on the rock that does not roll. Remember, in the lead up to the end of the year 2012, there was the whole Mayan myth. Remember that? The world was going to end on December, whatever, 22 or something, just before Christmas. And it was the Mayan calendar myth of 2012. The Mayans predicted a huge modern day change. Conspiracy theorists confirmed it. and Hollywood even made movies about it. But in the lead up to 2012, you could hardly turn on the TV without something about it. And many believe that the ancient Mayan calendar, which ended on December 21, would signal the end of human history. Now, another major change that actually is happening is the rise of China, which is believed by many to change who will be numero uno in the world, who will be the major world superpower in the near future. One thing, though, that you will never see published anywhere is the fact that there's been more growth in the Chinese church than anywhere else in the world combined in the last few years. In one country. Now, more growth than anywhere else in the world. The underground church, so-called, is estimated anywhere between 120 and 200 million people. That's more Christians than in America. We have about 70 million Christians here. But it is estimated that if current trends continue, by the year 2030, right, 17 years from now, China will be the largest Christian nation in the world with nearly 1 billion Chinese Christians. See, Jerusalem is the holy city of three faiths: Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. As such, the debate over who should control the city is more, much, much more than a political one. It is the battle over which God is God and which religion is the truth. This is a huge fight. It's not a physical, political one. It's about we wage a not against flesh and blood. And the rest, you know what I'm talking about. It's who is God? Who's the real God? And as such, debate over who's going to control the city is more of a spiritual one. When human society began, the human experience, it began in the Middle East and Africa, spread out to touch Europe and the Americas and South America and touch the whole world. There's nowhere where there's no humans. You see, it's always expanded outward. But for the first time in history, it's doing a U-turn. And in the future, expansion will not be outward, but inward. Now, the young generation coming on will have no problem with it because they go to see movies like Spider-Man. And when Peter Parker goes into this big building that's doing all this genetic stuff where eventually he gets bitten by this genetically altered spider and becomes Spider-Man. But when he goes in, he's in the foyer and there's this bank of screens and there's this voice incessantly going in the background. Most people missed it. It's so subtle. But the voice is saying, the future is within. The future is within. Now hold that thought for a moment, because the focus of this new era is expansion inward, utilizing our technical abilities to advance the age-old dream of immortality. You see, the computing power of 30 years ago, which filled a large room, now fits in your pocket and is 1,000,000 times more powerful. But it doesn't end there, because in 25 years, the mixing of artificial and human intelligence will allow what's now in your pocket to fit into a single cell in your body and be 1,000,000,000 times more powerful. Therefore, we now stand at a crossroads where the lines between physical, spiritual, moral, and ethical considerations have been blurred. This kind of development is always a two-edged sword. There are potentially some tremendous benefits to this. However, technology not connected to morality can lead to disaster. And the big question is, just because we can do it, should we do it? We are about to open a Pandoras box. If you know the mythology in Greeks, the Greek pantheon and so on. Once you open this box, you could not close it. But we will open a Pandora's box that we don't have the maturity as a species to handle. And this kind of power can only be handled by a perfect being, and I only know one of those. Come on now, somebody. We are literally like this. A baby with a machine gun. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be in the same room as a baby with a machine gun. Because they have ultimate power, but not the maturity or the wisdom to know how to use it. This church is no stranger to the Washington for Jesus. But here's the reality. If you want to see a real change in the nation, you can't go to the head. D.C. is the head. Why do you think there's so many lobbyists in D.C.? Because it's an industry to talk people into things and talk people out of things. That all happens here. A real change can only be a change that lasts if it is a heart change. Everybody say, heart change. You said heart change. Never mind. Philadelphia is the heart of America. That's where the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights were all assembled, signed, sealed, and ratified by the Founding Fathers. Right there at that building at the back, Independence Hall. And here we are in September 27, 28, last year, 25,000 people gathering under the theme of 2 Chronicles 7:14. God says, if you do 4 things, I will do 3 things. God says, if you humble yourself, pray, turn from your wicked ways, seek my face, I will hear from heaven, forgive your sin, and heal your land. If there was no improvement in the nation, it was certainly not for lack of prayer. But what I believe it was for lack of is humility. Early 2000, I had a prophecy put on my website called the Great Wheel of Reawakening. You can see it's been up on my website since February 18, 2000. And God had me so busy getting myself and everything here, relocating our ministry, that it was not until shortly after I came here that He showed me why He wanted me to be here. And that was the Great Wheel of Reawakening. This was the vision for the Northeast, starting from Boston down to Washington and out to Pittsburgh, a metroplex of 70 million people. Exactly the same width of the 1,000-mile wide storm Sandy. Now, here is the vision I saw. A great wheel. On the outer rim of the wheel were all these tiny little teeth, breaking up the hard, dry spiritual ground of the Northeast. And as the wheel rolled, these teeth were breaking up the hard, dry ground, and God said to me, you are one of those teeth. Other teeth on there represent ministries I bought from near afar, and others I've raised up here in this region to bring about a great reawakening. And then there were 4 giant spokes connecting the central hub. On the first one, there was a word beginning with the letter P, and it was prayer. Another word beginning with P, purpose. Another word beginning with P, power. And another word beginning with P, passion. Prayer is what captures the heart of God. And out of that, He imparts purpose. But it's one thing to have the ability to accomplish something. It's another thing to have the will. You've got to have the passion. And the whole thing was revolving around the central hub of unity. Not an easy thing to always come by in the church in a nation that celebrates independence as a virtue. But when I saw this, I thought, man, that looks like my wheel. Hurricane Sandy. 500,000 people in the city when Katrina hit New Orleans. And out of that, 2,000 people lost their lives. I want you to remember that. 500,000? 2,000 lost their lives. When Hurricane Sandy hit the Northeast, 1,000 miles wide, it impacted 70 million people. But only 138 people lost their lives. That is incredible. What does this all mean, I hear you say? I don't know. But it is, I think, God trying to get our attention. Somebody said God power washed the Jersey Shore. And man, that's true, I reckon. Because the Jersey Shore in the summer and other times is just a whole shore of debauchery. Chuck Pierce, our friend, was in Atlantic City in May last year and prophesied Atlantic City would be underwater. And that actually happened. Atlantic City was underwater. God is speaking to us, friends. We need to have ears to hear. He just doesn't always usually speak in plain English. We need to change our world or it will change us. And what's step number one in your plan to change the world? Change. You change. Somebody's praying, oh God, change my husband. Someone else is praying, oh, change my wife. Someone else is saying, oh God, change the pastor. And God is saying, you change and everything else will start changing. Come on now. So, in order to see a change come, first you must have a dream. If you have a dream, change is the only way that you will ever reach it. If you're trying to leave the land of broken dreams, my advice to you is keep walking. And the dream is the wind that fills your sails that will take you where God's intended you to go. But there are many people in our world today still living in the land of broken dreams. Well, life never turned out how I expected it to. God has a dream. Sometimes that dream has to die. So your broken dream is not dead really at all. It's been planted. And it's just waiting for you to water it so it can come back to life again and bear much fruit. Because one grain of wheat, unless it's buried, always is just one grain of wheat. But if you bury it, if you plant it, there's no limit to the amounts of grains that could come from it. You've got to water your dream. God is in the business of resurrection, and he will resurrect your dream if it was from him, understanding, of course, that there are two kinds of desire, and you cannot separate desire from dreams. There's desires of the flesh. We know we've got to keep them under control. But the desires of the Spirit, they're usually God's dreams that he's allowed you to get a little glimpse of. He could show it all to you. It'll just blow you apart. But he's shown you enough that you can bear as much as your heart